being the bearer of bad news.
I don't start these conversations with, how are you doing? They listen to every word.
How tough is it to make that transition?
Set the stage, get into the seriousness of the situation.
We see a number of leaders predicting the worst.
People's crystal balls right now are cloudy. The pendulum swung very far.
Is it ever right to send a memo?
I wouldn't.
Again, I'm terribly sorry to have to be delivering such difficult news, but that's the reality of how things will be at the company for the foreseeable future.
Gosh, I can't believe things have turned so bad here so fast. The last quarter we were hiring like crazy and everything seemed great. Oh, I think you're just taking a down view of this. It'll all be fine. What do you mean? He just said they were going to cut bonuses 50% and close 3 departments. Yeah, I know, but that kind of stuff happens all the time. Things will improve, I'm sure of it. Gosh, I wish I had your optimism. What can I say? I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
Hello, Recruiters for You. This is Jean speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, Jean. Listen, you know that job you were talking about? I think I might be ready for it.
Hi, this is Jill Wiltfong, Chief Marketing Officer for Korn Ferry, and this is Briefings, our deep dive into leadership. It's the job nobody wants, but leaders sometimes have to do, being the bearer of bad news. Get it right, and it's called courageous leadership. Get it wrong, and you risk going viral in all the wrong ways. Although no one can say for sure, there may soon be plenty of bad news to go around. 4 in 10 firms say they plan layoffs this year, according to one survey. And in another poll, over half of CEOs say they expect economic conditions to worsen in the first half of 2024. So today, let's see if we can learn a way for leaders to find a, quote, good way to give bad news. Here today to speak with me on this topic is Doug Charles, President of Korn Ferry's Americas region and Global Head of Consumer Operations. In his role, he leads the discussion at many large town halls that cover both encouraging and difficult news. Hi, Doug. Thanks for joining me.
Well, normally I'm very happy to join you. What a difficult topic to talk about today, and to kind of be considered very good at. But thanks for having me today.
No, glad you're here. So let's start with that big town hall. When a leader knows that they have to give bad news to employees in that sort of environment, what are the first things that they should be doing to prepare for that?
Knowing your audience and knowing the mood of your audience going into that discussion is really important. So virtually every time, especially on the larger gathering ones, I would almost have a smaller gathering with a smaller subset of people that said, this is what I'm about to go over. Hey, listen, in confidentiality, I don't want to reveal too much, but is this the right message? Am I hitting something on the wrong points? Because one thing I definitely learned was they listen to every word.
I think that's really good advice. We do occasionally hear about leaders saying the wrong thing and messing up by going off script. Yeah. When you've been in these situations, do you find yourself ad-libbing? Is that ever part of your approach?
The first 2 sentences I say are usually not ad-libbed. Those are usually scripted. After that, it's notes. And it goes back to something I said before. And if you Google, like, how do you deliver bad information or anything like that, you're going to see words like honesty, authenticity, sincerity, empathy. And I don't know if you could come across that reading. I surely don't have that skill. If I'm reading, I'm reading. If I'm talking to you, having a conversation, then I can understand that this is you. Somebody on the other end of this has to go tell their significant other or family member that I just lost my job, or we can't go on vacation this year, or we have to do something that is very impactful for them.
but delivering bad news is something that we all have to do at some point in our life, probably multiple times.
Right.
And what is the best way to approach that?
The right way to do it is you say, I got bad news. You wait about a second and you deliver the news. Never let somebody get blindsided by bad news. They need about a second to prep themselves, no matter how bad the news is.
That's former FBI negotiator Chris Voss sharing his thoughts on giving bad news. Doug, when you're handling these discussions in a large group meeting, it's different than a one-on-one, of course. But do you suggest following a similar strategy of mentally preparing people with a quick, I got bad news, and then going right into it? Or do you handle these a little bit differently?
I think it is different in a bigger setting than in a smaller setting, right? But I think in both cases, the commonality is you're not there to make 5 jokes. I don't start these conversations with, how are you doing? What's happening over here? Is it raining by you? That I'm not into the small talk, by sure. So I definitely agree with him in that regard. Everybody has a little different style to them. And I've been told, and we've probably all heard this from our children or someone else. They'll start a conversation with, I know you're probably going to say no to this, but, and I'm like, well, then I'm going to say no. Like you've put me on the defensive at the very beginning before I ever even heard what you had to say. So I think there's other ways to say it than, hey, I got bad news for you, but get into the seriousness of the situation. So I think you could sit back and say, listen, today we're talking today about this. And just set the stage as far as what you're talking about. Sometimes what I view as really bad news, they were like, oh, I thought you were firing me and you're just cutting my pay by 10%. So, you could almost, change the dynamic by not understanding the other individuals and where they're sitting.
Are there any particular people that leaders should run their statement by first before going live? Is it HR? Is it legal? Maybe even an outside publicist? Is that something that you recommend and tend to do?
I'm never to say that's the wrong answer. My answer is I try to find representatives of the people I'm about to talk to. So talking to someone from PR about, people who I'm cut out of the organization is not going to help me as much, but having someone that I trust in the organization that knows this is coming, they've heard or whatever, and I can kind of talk them through it, helps me more.
Hi, thank you for answering our questions. So as a CEO, you probably need to perform at a certain level every time because of the demands of your job. I was wondering on a personal level and from a health perspective, how do you, what are some of the things that you do? Maybe you try to have a certain amount of sleep, number of hours of sleep per night, or, what are some of the tips you could give us maybe as perhaps you've worked with some health experts?
That's perhaps an unexpected question posed during a Q&A session, Doug, that particular one with the CEO of a major company. How do you feel about hosting a Q&A after delivering difficult news? How tough is it to make that transition from difficult news into this open warfare with Q&A?
Sometimes in Q&A, to your point, they can go way off kilter as it relates to what that personal curiosity is, and you have 1,999 people that don't care about that particular answer. What I have done in the past and will continue to do is you put a little buffer between the discussion and Q&A. And that allows the people that really have a question. I want to understand. I did not comprehend. I did not get my answer from that last call to have this. So I'm not suggesting a week long, but if you could, if you're delivering bad news in the morning and you want to have a Q&A session in the afternoon, or if you want to have a Q&A session the following morning, I think that's smart. It works well.
That's good. So, Doug, let's save this for the second half, but I am interested to know why there's any bad news to share at all. Things seem to be looking up as we enter the new year. So what's changed? More on this after the break.
Hi, and welcome to The Break. I'm Rupak Bhattacharya, and here's a quick look at what else is happening in business from Korn Ferry's This Week in Leadership.
For next year, are you optimistic about the global economy or pessimistic? In one survey, over half of CEOs say they expect economic conditions to worsen in the first half of 2024. This is in sharp contrast to the investors supporting them, with 94% expecting things to improve in the near term. Experts say this mismatch is caused by wary leaders still recovering from the shocks of the past few years, while investors focus on more recent positive news regarding inflation and the economy.
Obesity in America. It's something we don't like talking about, but it's hard to ignore.
Americans are even unhealthier than they were just before the pandemic, according to a new Gallup poll. Nearly 14% are diabetic and 38% are obese, up 6% from 2019. Experts say that firms need to pay attention because not only does this data foretell rising healthcare costs, but also healthy employees make for more engaged and effective employees.
It's official. The auto market bubble has popped.
U.S. automakers experienced a strong rebound in sales last year, but experts expect that car purchases will level off in 2024. Market research firm Edmunds predicts that car makers will sell 15.7 million vehicles this year, which is only a slight increase from last year's 15.5 million, when sales increased a whopping 12%. Experts say persistently high interest rates and high vehicle prices are to blame for the current slowdown. For more insights on business and leadership, head to kornferry.com/insights. Now back to Jill and our episode.
Are you optimistic about the global economy or pessimistic?
Pessimistic. The real issue, I think, is how we deal with each other. Okay? If we, it was said earlier very well, peace. If we can keep a peace, if we can have a healthy, competitive environment without having a war with each other, we will be in good shape. We will make adaptations.
We're back, and we're speaking with Doug Charles, Korn Ferry's president of the Americas. Doug, that was hedge fund manager Ray Dalio speaking. He mentioned being pessimistic about the economy, and he's definitely not alone among leaders. But at the end of last year, the tide seemed to be turning upward. Was that just holiday cheer? Like, what happened? Because once again, we see a number of leaders predicting the worst.
No one likes uncertainty, and everybody comes to that. That's the easy answer. I think what you're seeing as well is correction, and that's different than uncertainty. And what you're seeing a lot with a lot of companies right now is they know the pendulum swung very far. The demand is not what it used to be, so we can't rely on that kind of demand. So managers are all about forecasting and predicting the future and aligning the resources in the organization to achieve what that crystal ball is telling them. So people's crystal balls right now are cloudy.
Yeah, for sure. So if there is more difficult news to deliver, and certainly there's always, right, periods where you've got to balance that. We talked a lot about meetings in person, one-on-ones, big meetings. Is it ever right to send a memo?
I wouldn't. So to answer the question, is it ever right to send a memo? Memos get moved. Memos get forwarded. Memos get no context. You and I could have been having a conversation and you pick up on something at one point in time and says, okay, I know where Doug's going with this, but the other person that may be reading it is saying, can you believe Doug said this? It's like, wait, I don't have all that context of what his explanations were. I think in this period of Zoom, I've always tried to do hey, I'm going to have a call. I'm going to have a discussion, or at least people can see me. Going back to your comment earlier about, the style or the approach that you have. I lose all of that in a memo. Me sitting back saying I have really bad information to share. Talk to you Friday at 5. That means from now to Friday at 5, there's a lot of speculation going on and a lot of, non-useful time spent in the organization.
So look, I don't just want to end on bad news because there's a lot of good news to share too. Any common missteps people have with getting good news across that you've seen happen?
Be appreciative. Be appreciative to someone that you're delivering. Hey, I know, what you put into this to earn this. And I want to recognize, your contributions. So I think it probably the leading practice is don't just be so focused on the dollar or the promotion or the whatever the good news is. Remind them why they were selected for this. reinforce to them, the positivity. That's something you try to do that says, hey, there's not a lot of people in this organization receiving the news I'm telling you today. And the reason we're telling you this news is because we have that kind of faith and commitment in you, your leadership, your style, that you're the type of person that's worth investing in. I think those words are important, that people feel appreciated.
Yeah, and maybe that's the note, right? Just don't forget to share the good news.
Find
exactly. Moments to talk about the good.
Yeah, fair point.
All right. Well, Doug, thanks again for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here.
The executive producer of Briefings is Jonathan Dahl. Today's episode was produced by Rupak Bhattacharya, Nadira Putri, and Teresa Allen, and it was edited by Jaron Henry McRae. It contains reporting by Russell Perlman, Ariane Cohen, and Peter Loria. Our video segment contains original artwork by Fraser Milton, Haley Kennel, Jonathan Pink, and Sasha Kotschik. Don't forget to read our magazine, available at newsstands and at kornferry.com/briefings. That's it for Korn Ferry Briefings. I'm Jill Wiltfong. See you next time.
Well, let's see. You told me I should say this. I got some bad news for you. So there you go.
Oh, is this how I'm going to get fired today?